The ancient Christian greeting, which we repeat a number of times during Mass of the Easter season, we need to do because a lot of people are not thinking about Easter anymore. They're thinking about Mother's Day. But it just happens to be Easter season. And as you will see next week in the Ample Legal, I hope you have been following those articles because they are extensions of what we say here. And those are available right here at the exit. That particularly this week, that this Easter season was formed because Jesus ate for 40 days with his disciples. And so our practice of blessing food, especially those of you who brought your food to church on Holy Saturday, you proclaim this, that the Easter season was formed by Jesus coming and eating and sharing food with his disciples. All the whys and everything are in there, and next week's articles, so we won't talk about that. Christ is risen. And in the resurrection of Christ, usually during Easter season, we celebrate First Holy Communion, because Easter is Holy Communion. Remember, what you are doing today is not a graduation ceremony. It's actually more important than a graduation ceremony. Even if you graduated Notre Dame or UB. It's not a birthday party at all. Even though some people may give you presents, God is giving you the greatest of all gifts, himself. No one can really give themselves to anyone because we would die. And Jesus died, he rose, and he gives himself. And why people say it's boring or long just means they're ignorant, that's all. They don't know this. So what you are doing today, you are making a commitment to do for the rest of your life. And I ask the parents who are here, the godparents especially, because you're responsible for the faith of these children. I hope you have been involved in their preparation for First Communion. If not, then you need to pray the rosary with them the next time you see them, godparents. That's why you're godparents and not just parents. And grandparents, who are usually the experts of this. At least young people, children tend to listen to their grandparents more than they sometimes listen to their own parents. It is your responsibility to keep this faith alive. And that means ask them to bring the rosary to your house and pray the rosary, not just bake cookies or tell a story. Then you are connecting them to their destiny. And because you connect them, you're not dead. You're alive. And life comes from the sacrament of Holy Communion. This is the most important day of our lives. I am sure each of us received First Holy Communion, unless we were somewhat spoiled and cried through the whole thing. Remember that day. It's one of the most important days of our life. As a matter of fact, my cousin, who was not going to church, and he had 2 kids, called his sister up and said, this is a number of years ago, Skylar has to receive his First Communion. And his sister said to him, he's not baptized. You can't receive First Holy Communion unless you're baptized. And that is why we will renew our baptismal promises of these 3 children and our own right before we bring up the gifts. Yes, you see how much we have forgotten. And you know, Jesus didn't say it would be a nice thing if you went to Mass on Sunday because the priest might be interested. No. He commanded us, do this in memory of me. No matter what is going on outside your life, no matter what is going on in the church, in relationship to scandal or bankruptcy or a priest, and that is actually, unfortunately, the scandal is not little, the result of it. But Jesus is still active in his church because he rose from the dead and destroyed death and sin. Like it said in the first reading, they tried to make the apostles quiet, not to talk about Jesus, because he was too much for them. Don't listen to your friends or people that you know who complain about the church. They are working for the darkness of the evil. Look for the light that is lit here on the Paschal candle and will be lit at the renewal of our baptismal vows, because your parents received and your godparents were there at the baptism, and the priest asked you to take a light from the Paschal candle, and he said to you what's been said from ages upon ages, for thousands of years to parents. Keep this light burning brightly. And if you heard me say, parents are to be the hurricane lamp for their lights of their children. So no matter what storm goes by or through, inside the church, outside the church, in the world, that light never goes out. Because there are so many people, things, and situations that want to snuff it out. Actually, more than want to keep it lit. And that is why your own faith needs to be reevaluated at this Mass. And your relationship to Jesus Christ, at Sunday Mass, and weekly Eucharist, that this life, this world, be a place of peace. It doesn't happen just because we like it, we would want it. It happens because peace is a gift of Easter, and Easter's days were formed, as I said, at table. First, at this table here, the Eucharist, that these children are going to receive. And then your own commitment to receiving Holy Communion every single Sunday needs to be evaluated if that's something you're not used to doing. Jesus commanded it. He didn't suggest it. He didn't say it would be nice if you have time. He doesn't say, well, if you're busy, that's okay. No. He said, do this in memory of me. Why? That we may live in his life and not just ruminate in our thoughts and the negative thoughts that other people tend to throw at us more than they throw good thoughts. I'll just throw this one little piece here. You'll remember this. You know that it has been studied worldwide that more people believe in the devil than believe in God. That's why people who speak always negatively are his angels. We who have been forgiven in confession, like these children here yesterday went to confession, they were well prepared. It was a sincere confession. It was their second confession, second of many more. We ask ourselves, when's the last time I went to confession? So I can unburden my life of darkness and maybe negativity and maybe the challenge I receive and the angst of relationships and come back to the first and most important relationship, which is our relationship to God. Because with that straight, everything else, it's not easy, but it exists forever. And this is why this is a very important signal day, extremely important day. And Camden, Jackson, Sylvia, the most important day of your life. So I told you yesterday that I was going to bring you my first Holy Communion prayer book. Unfortunately, the prayer book itself is lost. Not lost, but misplaced. I know I have it. But I scanned a copy of one of the pages in it, because I wanted to show you how important it was to me that when I came to Mass, this prayer book told me to pay attention to what the priest is doing. You know, sometimes And then look in parentheses, I have to teach this to our servants. Watch what I'm doing. Don't look at anybody else. So when you're at Mass, look at what the priest is doing. Don't look at your brother's doing. Don't think about anything else. And that's what it shows right here on this page. And then along with this picture of the priest offering the host, it says, explains what happens. This is from 1962, by the way. The three great parts of the Mass are the offertory, the consecration, and the communion. At the offertory, the priest offers God. So look and pray with him and say, my loving Jesus, the soldier tied you to a pillar, scourged you with whips. The blood flowed from your wounds. It dyed the pavement red. They pressed down upon your sacred vow a terrible crown. They're describing Jesus' sacrifice for us. I mean, this riveted my imagination, so much so that, well, I have this book somewhere. And then another page here, very beautiful. I wonder how many adults do this. It's page 63. It says, now the priest remembers the dead. And it says, I beg of you, sweet Jesus, may the souls of those whom I especially pray for right now and here think of the souls of people who have died that you know and are dear to you. May they share in your eternal life. Do you think about that? While the priest is saying that part of the Eucharistic prayer, and pray for the souls of those who are dead, those who pass the faith on to you. All this is in the Mass. Therefore, I cannot see the Mass being boring at all, unless we're ignorant of what is happening. And we're distracted because we've got something else in our mind, but not the Mass. Well, lastly here, it went from this little prayer book, it's a little bit smaller than these pages, the meditations of which are 1,000 years old, by the way. Do you know anything that's 1,000 years old? That's been prayed for 1,000 years? It's right here, in my first Holy Communion prayer book. Boy, those Franciscan sisters were really smart. They really were. But once I got a little bit older, like 2 years later, we went to Value. Remember Value? The store, it was like a Walmart. You could buy everything at Value. And you could even buy a Mass book. Imagine buying a Mass book at Walmart. You can't do that today. Because it's been wiped away. They don't want us to buy a Mass book at Walmart. They want us to spend our money on appliances and other things. Well, I remember my parents bought me at Value. Not Value Hardware, the store that preceded Value Hardware, in around 1965. And it has the same prayers in the offertory, but now it has the prayers the priest prays. And when I was serving Mass and using this book, the priestly prayers were not in English. And nobody went home and complained and said, I don't understand. Oh, once in a while you hear it. But nobody complained because if they had a book like this, everything was translated. And I prayed along with the priest. The exact same prayers the priest is praying. That's called participation. That's called participation. Even though the priest and the people were facing the same direction, everybody participated. And those who wanted to know what the Mass is about and not fall into boringness had little books like this. And as all the readings for the entire year, as all the prayers the priest said, so much so, I'll tell you this little thing, the Latin Mass I have memorized because I followed this every time I served. But see, that happens when you do it often. Not just once in a while, Christmas or Easter, a wedding, a funeral, or a first communion. You live in God's house, and you know the conversations in that house as well as you know the conversations in your own house. That's beautifully depicted for us right above the high altar. But the conversations are in song. There's a fancy polka band up there. And there's a song book, and there's angels with their mouths open telling us that's what we're supposed to be doing. Because nobody's performing here. You're not here to take a seat at a theater and watch. You're here to perform before God, to offer your sacrifice, as this prayer said, just like Jesus did, his body and his blood. And after you offer your sacrifice, God takes it, transforms it, and this is the most beautiful part that nobody else can do except the priest. He gives it back to you as his own body and blood. Your sacrifices as the God's body and God's blood. I can't see why somebody would want to say no to this weekly invitation at all. Because God's blood raises us above everything and everybody on this earth and helps us see this world like God sees us. And he doesn't see our problems first. He does not see our sins first. He does not judge us at all. Look at all of John's gospel. You'll find it right there. Jesus says, I have not come to judge. He comes to give life. And that life which will never last right now. I'll tell you one little secret which I mentioned to people who come here regularly. I have that written on my license plate. It's so important to me. It's one word, the word that Jesus said in Nazareth when he visited his home synagogue. It says hodie in Latin, which means today. Everything that Jesus did for us, his passion, execution, resurrection, teaching, everything. The empty tomb, which is so beautifully displayed before us here, and every trumpet, lily, and fading hyacinth. We sing in our songs that they bloom and blossom forth like Jesus' resurrection. Everything says what Jesus wanted to do is happening right now, here and now, for those who accept his invitation every week. We can't live without Sunday Mass. That is why particularly we read the Gospel of Easter Sunday, having read the fisherman's story. If you're a fisherman, go back and find the Gospel of St. John, because Jesus, carpenter was telling the fishermen what to do. I always love that exchange. Carpenters don't know a whole lot about fishing. Okay? But Jesus tried. And when Jesus did, boy, they did. Yeah, miracle. But miracles happen to people who recognize Jesus regularly, every Sunday. So that at the end of time, when we come to him, he won't say, who are you? I never saw you. He'll say, you are part and parcel of my body and blood. Come, enjoy the saints, the joy of the saints and the angels. This is by far a boring news, whether we're ringing bells or not. Christ is risen. Christ is risen. Christ is risen. Now we invite parents